figured I'd come on, do a quick video, a little bit, talk about small square baling, thoughts of what we're going to do, maybe compare two different options. And I know maybe I'm not the one to speak on, I haven't not run either one of them, but I have dealt with the packages out of each of them by jockeying hay for myself and someone else who's jockeyed hay I worked for in the past. But currently we're small square baling with a kick baler, and we have about 8 kick racks, so we can put up close to just shy of 1,100 bale in a day without unloading anything. And yeah, so if you're not into just listening to someone talk, maybe just find another video. But we're just going to talk a little bit about small square baling, why we're doing what we're doing, maybe where we want to go, and kind of the pros and cons that I'm seeing on that. Maybe you guys can give me input, or if you're interested in any of that stuff, possibly learn a little something here too. But I've been looking into it for a year or two now, kind of where I want to go. And the logical choice, if money was no object, is hop right into a bale bearing and be done. Buy once, cry once, right? Used bale bearings go for anywhere. I've seen some in that $70,000 to $75,000 range on the used market, with average used ones being $85,000 to $90,000. I don't know what new is, but I bet you new is over $120,000 to $150,000. Could be more, could be less. I haven't priced out new. Not looking into new. I've never bought any piece of equipment new outside of a chainsaw. And if you can count that, that's the only new thing I've ever bought with an engine on it. Never bought a piece of equipment, anything with a PTO or a drawbar. I've never bought new. Trailers, balers, rakes, mowers, you name it, everything's been bought used. So that's primarily what we're going to be comparing on the used market, the direction we want to go. Because if you're following me, maybe you're more into some of this stuff. We have a New Holland 5070 with a 72 kicker on the back, and then we have our backup balers a 570 with the same kicker on the back, a belt style kicker. First, we can talk about some of the limitations and issues I see with that. I like my New Holland balers. I'm very familiar with them. I'm not an expert on how to set knotters up completely, but there's some things I can troubleshoot and resolve. I have spare parts for knotters, whether it's wiper arms, stripper arms, whatever you want to call it, knives, bill hooks. I think I have an extra cam even. I got a second set of needles, used needles that came off the baler. I replaced the used needles with new, but kept the old ones in case we ever need them. Got extra bearings and U-joints for these balers. So to say I'm kind of partial to New Holland maybe is an understatement. Do they make the best small square baler on the market? Hard to say. It really depends on dealer support. I really like them. Perhaps you could convince me that the inline balers that Massey or Agco, whatever you want to call them, Heston put out are maybe superior to the New Holland balers. But if you don't have a great Agco dealer locally, I'd be hard pressed to want to go to one of those. Not that I really use my local New Holland dealer all that much, but it's nice having that local support. I just feel like in my area, Agco support's been severely lacking. I'd say I won't ever go to an inline, but right now, with all the spare parts I have for New Holland balers, we're definitely going to be staying in New Holland for a while on the small square baler market unless something really changes. Not to say I never will, or it won't happen this winter if I found a complete setup for the right price with an inline baler on the front. I don't see it happening in my price range. But nonetheless, we have a New Holland baler, running the kick baler. We have several different wagons. It doesn't really matter what types of wagons you have, whether they're easy trails, bale canes, you name it. I don't have any easy trails, but almost do. They're nice wagons. But a wagon's a wagon. They hold bales and they take it from the field home, and everything needs unloaded by hand. That's the biggest bottleneck I'm seeing out of these, is just how much labor there is in it. It worked really good when we were only doing maybe 10,000 bales of hay in a year. They weren't so bad because you just had to fill each wagon up 10 times on the year. If you custom bale and they unload them, who cares? And then if you tack in straw, maybe there's another 5,000 to 6,000 we were doing at a time this year. We did a little over 3,000 bales of straw. We're up to 12,000 bales now through the small square baler. So that's a good jog, and we're not even done the second cut yet, and haven't started third, obviously, we're fourth. So I'm hoping to do 20,000 to 20,000, maybe over 20,000 bales. It takes a lot of labor. That's the hard thing, is when you have fields further home from home, we're traveling quite a ways. These wagons are a very big limiting factor in how much you get done in a day. If you're baling right behind the barn, and you know it's going to be dry that day, and you have help available, absolutely 2,000 to 2,500 bales a day could be attainable. I know guys use small square bale straw close to the barns, similar setups, whether it be a John Deere or New Holland baler. 2,000 bales a day is really an attainable normal amount of hay or straw. Primarily straw is what I see these guys running 2,000 bales a day. I rarely get over 1,100. The baler is more than capable of it. I think when we're really baling, I average about 300 bales an hour. That's with switching wagons every 120 to 150 bales, because that's what the wagons hold. So 300 bales an hour, I know we could do more. But if you had a 10-hour day of baling straw, you should be able to get close to 3,000 bales through a baler if you don't have to stop. And that's why I'm thinking about moving towards an accumulator or a bale baron, because the efficiency you would gain, the fact that you don't have to rely on labor. For the most part, we've had decent labor, but I don't have enough people to help with the hauling of wagons, because if some of your fields are an hour drive away, which sounds really far, it's not. When they're only, granted 18 miles is a far drive, but it takes an hour to get a wagon back from there, and then 20 minutes to drive there empty. But if you're trying to bale and reload wagons same day and really pump out some bales, you're looking at a 2-hour cycle time between loads. Even if you had 2 trucks on the road, that's an hour cycle time, and you should be able to bale 2 loads an hour. So you're not even keeping up with half the production of the baler. And if you have enough help, you should be able to load 2 loads an hour pretty easy too. So you're not even able to keep up with half. You might be able to gain yourself a few extra loads out of the day, bump up numbers to 1,400 bale on a further field. It's possible. That's requiring about 3 to 4 people at the barn unloading, 2 people, maybe 3 people hauling wagons, and 1 person, usually I'm the one bailing. So you start doing the math really quick. You're looking at 5 to 6, maybe 7 people to put up 1,400 bales in a day. That takes a lot of people, and I don't have a ton of help all the time, or people I can trust to just drive truck and take wagons down the road. That's our problem. We're kind of hitting a wall here if we're trying to hit that 20 to 25,000 bale a year, which is where we're trying to hit this year. Now you go into an accumulator or baron, those numbers should be obtainable, because you can just bale and drop on the ground. You can pick up late in the night. You don't have to worry about wagons that don't have tail lights that go slow. You can put everything on the trailers and haul. We have 1 gooseneck. I had a bumpable trailer. We had to get rid of it. Axle broke. We had a second deck over, but that's gone now. I'd like to get into another second deck over trailer, whether it's a gooseneck, bumper pole, or something, so we have tail lights and we can haul at 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour, and haul a lot more home. So that'll eliminate some of the bottlenecks you're seeing with the hauling side of things. The baler will be able to reach capacity, and that's why we're planning to go that direction. So some of the pros I'm seeing on the accumulators, and at the scale we're doing, we're probably going to be looking at least a 12 bale. I think Coon has a 12 bale. And this isn't me promoting any one product, because there's a lot of different accumulator brands. There's a couple different bundling brands. I know of a few, and we compare those few. I don't know a lot of the different accumulator brands. Coon Norton Systems is the one I'm most familiar with, but I know like Horschler or something, maybe Steffens. There's a couple different companies that make some accumulators and grapples. But the main one I'm looking at for simplicity is the Coon Norton system. All gravity fed, just needs springs and pulleys, is my understanding how those all work. If we go that direction, still looking used, we'd be looking at possibly a 12, more than likely a 15 or 18 bale accumulator and grapple setup. Maybe a squeeze to unload. So there's that. Or the alternative would be going to a bale baron. Hardcrest Manufacturing makes those. They're out of Canada. I haven't completely ruled out the bale bandit, but they have slower cycle times and maybe don't quite have the efficiency you get out of a bale baron. But if you're hooking it right up to the baler, they'll keep up fine. If you're going to a ground pickup unit, you might see decreased efficiency that a bale baron would really pick up the difference on. Now the third bundling system, which are relatively new, I haven't given a great deal of thought to, would be our Cousins 14 bale bundles. I guess the Bale Bandit is a blue machine, has 2 metal bands, metal strapping like you would see on certain pallets. Those I'm not super big fan of, because I know they have some electrical issues on the strapping, and especially like the Bale Bandit 100 models, there was a lot of issues with those updates you put on them. But just like the Bale Baron, Markrest, our Cousin, the Bandit, there's not like local dealers to go to when you have these issues. So when you have issues, you might be up a creek with no way of continuing to bale. with some of those, I don't know, solenoids, sensors, switches. Sometimes things don't communicate the best with those, they have issues. I'm not trying to say they're a bad product. I've been around some of the Bandit bundles. They do hold shape really well. I'd say, in the grand scheme of things, the few I've been around, this may not hold true for everyone, they seem to be pretty comparable to the Mark Rest Bale Bearing product, which has 4 strings, large square baler strings. I assume it's 440 knot string. Maybe it's not, but if it is, it sure looks like the same twine I'm using on my big square baler. And it takes 4 strings around 21 bales. It's 3 high, 7 long. Bale Bandit's doing the same thing, but instead of 4 strings, it's 2 metal bands. The Bandit bundles seem to be pretty comparable in my mind from the handling aspect to a Bale Bearing. My biggest qualm on those would be the bundler itself having some of the technical issues that they're known to have. Now, remember, it's Arcusin, similar product, but instead of bundling them like horizontally, it bundles them vertically and then flips the bundle down when it's completed. And instead of a 21 bale bundle, it's a 14. Very similar to the others in the sense of 7 bales long. Instead of 3 bales high, it's 2 bales high. I believe that's also a 4-string and has more flexibility on bale length. You can run up to 5 strings on it. I want to say if you go to the longer, like 42 plus inch bales, don't quote me on it. They have multiple models. They're up to the E14 model now. If I would be looking at one, which I don't think I am because the E14s are relatively new, but that'd be the only model I'm interested in because it has the density of product I'd like to see. Because some of the earlier ones, it just seems like the bundle integrity is not as good as what I'd like to see. I have not been around Arcusin bundles in person, just seen videos of them, read on them, but I even talked to some, I don't know if you call them dealers, whoever's at some of these shows, when I go and look at them and talk to them, and they do admit that the bundle integrity has been an issue in the past, and then when you go to the E14 model, they've resolved a lot of those issues. So that might fix some of those problems and why I'm not a huge fan of the Arcusin, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm probably not interested in them because I'm not looking to purchase new or write off lease type stuff because it's just the price point. It's going to be really hard to buy into. I want to buy something that might have a few issues, things I can learn and resolve or whatever. That's not the end of the world for me. The big thing is I want the depreciation mostly already taken care of. I don't want to absorb all that depreciation and have this huge upfront cost. If we can buy it a little cheaper, that's what I'd like to go to. So now we can start comparing apples to apples for my operation and why I'm thinking the route we're thinking. Granted, right now it's mid-July. Nothing's happening until winter. We have to get these barns built. One is up. One's mostly paid for. We still have to pay for the concrete, but I haven't heard back from the guy who did the concrete when he wants paid up. So we'll get him paid. But either way, essentially one barn is essentially paid for. We're obviously financing both barns. The second one has not been started, and I don't know when he'll be coming to pour the footer on that one. We'll figure that out. I think we're going to be over budget by a substantial amount over what we have in our pre-agreed loan. And I don't want to refinance. We're going to pay out of pocket to cover how much we're over budget. So that's going to dip into what we can put towards equipment at the end of this year. So I want the barns done. I want the dust settled on that. I want to know the total scope of project and cost. I want all of our hay for the year finished and done in the barns, and inventories all up to date, and I know what the value of what we have in the barn is worth, so I know how much we can comfortably spend. And then secondly, and most importantly, I want to have leases renewed and extended into next year so I know how many acres we're going to run to. Because the last thing you want to do is make large financial investments in something because you have some money to make most of the purchase cost now or cover all the cost and then lose a lot of acres and not be able to cover it, justify it in the future years. We have a few fields I think renewed for next year already. At the end of the year when we pay rent on them, I want to look at renewing some others, and if we have the acres there, it'll make the decision a lot easier. So with that being said, we can talk and compare the two systems I'm mostly looking at. Primarily thinking a 15 or 18 bale accumulator or a bale bearing. Those are the two things I'm looking at, mostly because I don't want to be going all over the field chasing around 10 bale packs. I think those are fine for smaller producers, and I'm not trying to look down on anyone. If that's the scale you're at, that's the scale you're at, and that's a fine place to be. In a lot of ways, I wish I wasn't quite as big as we've gotten, but to justify what we're doing, we have to scale. And in order to cover the scale that we've added on, we have to get equipment in order to get equipment, you need to scale to justify the equipment. It's a never-ending cycle, but at some point, I'm ready to draw a line in the sand, say we're happy where we're at. The acres we covered this year, I'm pretty content with. I just hope we can maybe pull away from some of the further acres, dial in closer to home, and then just refine our equipment to make life easier. I think an accumulator or bundler is going to get us there. So we're looking at a 15 or 18 bale. Should clean the field pretty quick. Two of the things I really like. Let's talk the pros on the Northern Coon system. Moisture isn't as big a deal on those as it is the bale bearing. That's a huge downside of the bale bearing. I wouldn't say huge, but it's a big one. Is you basically need to treat that like a large square bale product. That things are not going to sweat in the same way that small squares normally sweat, because you're compressing those bales together to make this really tight product. What is a very phenomenal product. I really like it over anyone else's. It does have those issues with that. So the Norton system is not a great deal different than how we're currently putting up hay, especially with the 15 or 18 bale on edge. It's going to allow me to put it in the barn. We're stacking everything on edge in the barn now, so it's going to give us a very similar stack to what we're doing. So I won't have to change a lot on how we're putting up hay in the sense of whether you put preservative on or not, with the moisture you can start baling at and the moisture you have to quit baling at. I think we continue baling in the same manner that we are with a similar equipment, nothing really changes. But with bale bearing, I think our hand will almost be forced to buy some sort of preservative. I like the idea of the Silo King dry preservative. I don't really want to deal with a wet product. That's like a granulated product. I think it has like anti-mold and some other inhibitors and other things in it that help the hay keep better. And they claim you can bale up to 20%, maybe even higher with that system, and so do the preservative systems, the propionic acid, the hay guard, whatever you want to call it, they can bale up to 25%. I don't mind any of that. I think I'd like to stay under 18% and try to make sure things are getting cleared out before you even bale, and then that 18% can be more of a dew moisture thing, not a sweat thing. I do not want to see 18% moisture on hay that's not cured yet, because you know it's only going to jump higher. So that's a big thing against the bale bearing, is you have to have a dry product going into it. No ifs, ands, or buts around it. Another pro, when we look at these Coon accumulators, the simplicity of them, no technology, no wire harnesses, no hydraulics, no nothing. You just hook it onto the back of your baler and you go. It allowed me to continue baling with my white that doesn't have the hydraulic capacity or power beyond even if it did. We don't have the hydraulic capacity, even if we had power beyond on that white, to run a trail type bale bearing. We could just basically keep running the same setup we have now, and nothing essentially would change on the white side of things, because I don't have to stop it on hook wagons. I can just keep baling and dropping bundles, or whatever you want to call it, groups of bales in the field. So that'd be really nice to be able to continue utilizing that. So those are kind of the big pros. Some of the drawbacks I start seeing. Another big pro is price. Huge pro is price. Used 15 and 18 bale accumulators you can find for $8 to $12, $8 to $15,000, and I really don't see how going used is going to hurt you. Not to say springs can't wear out, not to say pulleys can't wear out, but you know, some ingenuity and some redneck fixing you can get done for the day and get parts ordered and maybe keep running until the parts come in. Just make it work and get yourself by. I love the simplicity of the system and the price point to buy into it. So a lot of really good things. Now we get to some of the cons. You can get a tie grabber, which will eliminate this one, but I'm going to talk about the bundle integrity, if you will. I haven't really spent much time around the tie grabbers. I've seen some of both. And some of the stacks he's making, they look fine. But the bundle integrity is kind of an issue for me. The group, whatever you want to call it. I think a tie grabber will allow you to mitigate some of those issues and continue to stack higher and have a very rigid and strong stack going up higher. In order to get that height, I'm not equipped to do that. You're a skid steer with third function. This tractor I'm in now, the loader tractor, has third function. It can get me probably 12 feet up. We have a 20-foot barn. Maybe this tractor can lift 12, maybe 15 feet. I don't know. Either way, that leaves 5 feet of overhead space not being utilized in the barn. That's not my ideal way to do this. So does that mean the only way to actually utilize these accumulator groups of bales and not waste space, you know, cubic space in our barn, the vertical space, we go to a telehandler with third function. Not opposed to getting a telehandler eventually. I'd like to eventually get one. It'd be easier to stack the big squares in the barn. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to. But if we go with an accumulator, we're forced to buy a telehandler immediately, so we're not wasting all that space. Do we really gain a lot on the price point savings? So if we're looking at $10,000 for the accumulator, and you can find one used. A tie grabber, there's not a lot of used on the market. Seems like most of the ones, I don't know if they're a relatively new thing. I think they're not super old, but there's not a lot of used on the market. Just call it $6,000 probably for that. Could be $10,000. Say it is $10,000. We'll just say you can find a good cheap used one for $6,000, and maybe we use a squeeze, because they have these good bale squeezes you can use. You can unload faster to get them in the barns quicker, like that. Better use vertical space. You don't need the overhead space for the grapple, because you won't be able to stack that full 20. You'd only maybe be able to stack 18 feet, which is still plenty high, don't get me wrong. That's why we went tall, so we have different options on how we want to utilize the barns as we grew our operation. So the squeeze might allow you to do that. Then again, not seeing many used squeezes on the market. What you are seeing is 1 or 2 years old, still relatively expensive. You might be looking at conservatively $25,000 to $30,000 going used or lightly used on the accumulator setup. And if you need a telehandler, maybe you can find one with third function to be able to do that. I don't know, possibly $25,000. So if we're at 30 plus 25, we already have $55,000 wrapped up in this. And maybe not the nicest stuff. I mean, the accumulator is going to be fine. The tie grabber will be fine. The squeeze will be fine. Maybe your telehandler is the nicest. You're a little nicer. Call it $60,000, $65,000. You're going to have wrapped up in this whole setup. It's a pretty good investment to make just to do small squares. But now we can start looking at the price point. We get into a Baron, like I said earlier, used $75,000 to $85,000. It doesn't seem to have a huge price point difference between trail type and pickup type. You have the T and the P models. I don't know the exact differences in all the model numbers, like the 52, 40s or whatever, 20s. I don't know them. I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. I do know as you get newer, hydraulic needs increase, but your throughput increases tenfold. I believe some of the newer ones are capable of doing 800 bales an hour. That's insane, you know. That's like, you can do 6,000 bales a day. If I'm only doing like 20,000 bales a year, that's 4 days of baling. We're done. That's crazy to me. Absolutely insane. So let's just say we're already at $55,000 to $65,000 on the bundling or the accumulator side. Some of the pros are simple, being able to bale a little bit wetter, and maybe a little bit on the price point. What I really like, what's really drawn me to the Bale Baron, is the end product. Those bundles I've dealt with a few different times, and eventually to get the Marcrest grabber, whatever, bale grabber, bundle grabber, whatever you want with the hooks, the vertical hooks, it's like the grapples that you see made by Kuhn or Steffens, but instead of being horizontal, they're upright. That might be the end game, and leave the bundles in the position to come out of the bundler. But initially, I think we make it work with our setup. Oh, sorry. Right now, this loader tractor has a bale spear on the front. It's supposed to be a 5-prong. 2 are broken. It was that way when I bought it. I haven't broke the prongs, but I just need to put a couple more spears in. We can have a 5-prong, and we have moved bundles with this 3-spear, and it's worked beautifully. I can unload 300 bales in 15 minutes by myself in a really tight barnyard that was at my house into a hip roof barn. What I can do with with our new pole barn and the big pad we have out front, I don't even, I can do 1,000 bales plus an hour unloaded, no problem, not even a doubt in my mind we can be doing that. And that's moving 2 bundles at a time. These moving bundles flipped on edge, so now the strings, instead of being like they are in a big square bale, just imagine a square bale flipped on edge, the strings would be on the sides. You'd be putting the spears into the small squares through the small squares, I guess, right? Lifting the bundle that way. I can move 2 bundles at a time, possibly can move 3. I only stack 2 high in the trailer, flip them on edge, go 2 wide. I can get 400 bale easy on my gooseneck. And that's a lot of hay moved at one time, and I can unload 42 bales at a time, 2 bundles. And that's just one spear. It's really simple. I don't need to run a third function hydraulic to hook into them or worry about possibly another con I see with the accumulators. Maybe the inline balers don't have this as much. Maybe the augers on the John Deeres don't have this issue. You get into thin hay, occasionally on your headlands, where you're not beating the baler full, you get a lighter bale, a softer bale that's 10, 15, 20 pounds lighter than the rest. My concern going to an accumulator, those hooks are going to go into these bales, they'll pick up the heavy ones just fine, and then you get into that light one, it's just going to pull out of it, and then you'll have to find a heavy bale from somewhere else to fix the back of that, to fix the rest of that big grouping of bales. And that just sounds like a lot of extra work and kind of a pain. I expect there to be a few of those bales in every field for sure. That's going to be a problem, I feel like, and might create some headaches. And then also, how far those grapples stick out. I might need to upgrade skid loaders too, because it probably couldn't run an 18 bale grapple. You need 4 functions to run the tie grabber, because it's 1 function to run the hooks and the squeeze portion of it, and then a fourth function to run the tying mechanism. You have a solenoid on there that can redirect hydraulic flow, so it just makes more wires. None of this is overly complicated things I can't do, but it's like I just worry, how long is that going to hold up if the wires get caught? They got to kind of go down the boom and somewhere in the cab. I have a beat up old skid steer. Do I need to upgrade skid steer just to do that? And if we do, then it just jumps the price point of running the accumulator really dangerously close to where a bale bearing is. But being able to unload 42 bales at a time with the bale bearing is just an outstanding number of production. I really like that. They even have flippers you can put on the back of the bearing. I'll just flip them right behind it. Otherwise, you just push on them with like the back of the spear or something, tip them over, and then spear them, stack 2 together, load on your trailer, and away you go. And one strap will strap down 84 bales. Really easy. If you're the tie grabber, I assume it'll be pretty similar. I can't do the math in my head. If they're tied up and you stack 6 high, one strap will probably tie down an equal amount or maybe even a greater amount of bales on the Kuhn system. So I'm not saying that that's all bad either. But I really like that a lot better than kick baling from the labor, because the loading side would be huge. And then I'd see the huge benefit when it's time to sell hay and load out hay with either system, but primarily with the bearing bundles. I can load a trailer in 15 minutes, strap it down in 5. Right now it takes us an hour, probably more than an hour and a half, maybe to load 300 bales on the gooseneck, and then it takes 10 straps to strap that 300 bales down. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of labor. It's hot out. I don't like doing that. I like to sit in air conditioning. The skid steer in air conditioned, but I'd still rather be doing that mechanically than out in the heat handling every bale by hand. So something's got to change. If we can either afford either one of them, I'm hoping this winter we can. We might have to kick bale for 1 more year, but I think we're going to be at least $3 to $4 grand in labor by the time the year is over. Even if we pay for half a system and finance the other half, which is more debt, I'm not a huge fan of doing. I like the cash flow stuff. But at the end of the day, to continue to grow, or at least keep our production without killing ourselves, maybe have some more time for the family. That's another big thing I'm missing a lot because we're so busy. I think the bearing of the accumulator is going to buy us some of that family time back. And how do you put a value on that? I'm sure Mark Russ could put a pretty good value on it, but or the bank can too with their interest rates. But shoot, if the payment's under $5 grand a year, if I can cash flow the rest and keep my payment under $5 grand, that's about going to be keeping us even with what we're going to have in labor cost, and I'll have that time back with my family. That's huge. So it's it's something we're going to have to think about long and hard here as we move into this winter. Another cost you'd have to go with the bearing would be some form of applicator, and then you have that additional cost per bale, which is I think upwards of 10 or 15 cents depending on how heavy you're applying the product. So maybe it's not a huge gain because that's about 15, 25 cents is what I'll have in unloading. Maybe we don't have to put that on every bale if we get it good and cured out. So there's things to think about, but the applicator alone is going to be probably a couple $1,000s to get set up on that. But if this allows me to scale, I think the big thing where we really see the biggest gain is when I knew I was big square baling or round baling a field, I knew I could just jump into another field exactly the next day, especially if we had a big window to pick up those bales, because it's like, well, we can pick up round bales or big squares in the morning while the dew's on when it's too wet to rake or too wet to bale. So I could bale all day and then have another field ready to go the next day and bale and be comfortable going right into that next field. but it's like small square baling. I know I need to be available to haul wagons the next day and kind of manage the hired help to unload them. It's like, I don't want to mow hay 2 consecutive days if I know the first day of hay that I'm mowing is going to need small square bale, because it's going to tie me up. So I kind of wait a day, sometimes even 2 days before I drop another field. And sometimes when you get very limited opportunities to make dry hay, especially in the spring, then the more consecutive days you can mow, the more acres you can knock out quickly. The sooner you get stuff done, you can capitalize on some of that early spring rain or late spring rain, early summer rain, and get off to a better start on second cut. We might have lost a lot of tonnage on second cut and not really gained much tonnage on first cut because there was a lot of acres that got pushed off because we were trying to focus on small square baling early on. And how do you put a value on that? Is that an extra $10 an acre you could have gained? And if there was an extra 200 acres you could have gotten through, there's another $2,000 a year of tonnage you could have capitalized on by being able to bale more in a day or just bale more consecutive days. I'd agree to that 100%. If I got another gooseneck or a semi or something, I don't think it'd be crazy to think we'd have the capacity to haul anywhere from 700 to 1,000 bales per trip on 2 trucks. So like 400 on the gooseneck, maybe 500, 600 if we had a semi, if we found a cheap semi, or maybe a big straight truck with a 24-foot flatbed on it, and then we put a pintle hitch 25-foot trailer in the back. I think a setup like that we could get bought fairly cheap. But if like something like that would happen, it's like to be able to haul 700 bales back and unload to 1,000, just round up to 1,000. If we want to do a huge day, triple what we've done this year, we'd only have to make 3 trips to the field per truck with 2 trucks, with 2 people. We don't need 7 people devoting their whole day to this. And that's just 7 people, day of, and they still have some unloading to do the next day. If we can just get done with everything in a day, that'd be huge. So, yeah, if you have barons, or what's your thoughts? I've kind of already sold myself on just going to a baron if we can make the cost. Ideally, we just jump right up into that rather than going to an accumulator and having, like loss of space in the barn. That vertical space is huge. We paid for these barns and we paid for them to be as tall as we did. I want to capitalize on as much of that vertical space as possible. And we just got back to the barn here. Let's see if I can back this up. I'll show you a little bit of what we got going on in there and kind of why we want to do what we're doing here. So we got a couple kick racks here behind me. We got 8 of those. You'll see more of them when we get into the barn. And another reason I want to get away from this is it just sucks to unload in this heat. It kills you. So we just parked the loaded wagons here in the barn. There you go. There's both the balers. I think we can squeeze the big square baler in here yet. It's just too much work to unload when it's this freaking hot out. You can see how we stack the straw right on up. The big squares, that's as high as I can get with the skid steer. Like I said, eventually a telehandler would be something I like. And I think this loader tractor, let's see if we can show you here, that I'm using now, I'd have no issue stacking up that height with that. That's got a lot higher lift than what the skid steer does, but this is what was available to get them in those tight spots. Eventually we get the other barn up, maybe we'll be going higher. You can see the straw stacked all the way up. You can see the clover back there stacked all the way up, and you can see the stack. We're starting there, second cut alfalfa. That will go all the way up once we get enough second cut. 4 wagons backed in here. These wagons take up a lot of space, and if I can narrow that down, maybe eventually if my son's coming into farm in 10-15 years, but my dad helps a fair amount, so we could maybe possibly justify 3 trucks. We have 3 trucks right now, but that half ton ain't gonna be hauling no 500 bales of hay. But having 3 trucks on the road wouldn't be the most feasible thing all the time. It'd be hard to get me, my wife, and my dad all available at the same time because there's probably always something else to do, whether it be baling or raking or this or that. But I can tell you one thing, we can get a lot more done in a day with just 2 goosenecks on 2 1-tons than what these 8 wagons will do, and they'll take up a lot less room and be a lot less things to maintain and go wrong, and it'll be a lot faster going down the road. There's a lot of pros why I'd like to go that direction with our operation. See, this barn's pretty full. We get these wagons backed in. I don't know when we'll unload them. That's the other thing, just you're waiting to unload because it's just too dang hot. We got more kick racks over here I gotta clean off yet. I think there's a couple bales on the one. Of course there is. There's our elevator, so we could sell the elevator, sell all the wagons. If we go to a trail type baron, or only one accumulator, which I don't plan on running 2 balers unless we go to a ground pickup baler or ground pickup bearing. If we do that, then we'll probably keep both. But then if we sell that baler and then we sell all the wagons and go to 1 accumulator on this baler or a bearing that hooks onto the back, you know, that baler is probably worth anywhere from 8 to 10 grand. Each wagon's probably worth at least 1,000 to 1,500. There's probably almost 20,000. Once you sell the elevator and everything else, that could go towards the next upgrade. But like I said, I like the idea of the bearing bundles because we'll just be able to use a lot more of our current setup, and we'd be able to use that vertical space a lot better. The only downside of stacking the bundles on the direction I'm talking, because the bales would be vertical, you start to have some deformation of the bales on the bottom. It gets to be a lot of weight. Now big squares it doesn't matter, but the small squares do. I don't think most people go much over 4 or 5 high. I mean, there's 5 high, that's how high I'd probably stack until we get to a telehandler, and then maybe get a claw, and then we just stack them how they come out of the bundler. Yeah, that was a lot of rambling, if you even care, if you even watch this far. But yeah, if you've gone to that direction, let me know what your thoughts are. I don't want to do another year like this because I like these balers. New Holland's been good to me, but I hate kicking bales. One big downside too, we made a lot of adjustments to this yesterday thrower. We had so much inconsistency in the windrows. Sorry, 2 days ago when we were baling, so we had to make some adjustments to. I made that one before. You can see I got I don't know why that one is the way it is. I thought we adjusted to 570. You can see we got 2 of these. There's 1 there and 2 here. That one looks like it has 2 on the bottom, so this one's adjusted even tighter to bring that down so it grabs it more. And then another adjustment we made, see how there's that top hole, and then now we're in the bottom. It was in the top, both of those, to drop the clearance on the base of the thrower, so it grabbed the bale sooner. So it's tighter there and tighter up top, and it grabbed the bale sooner. One of my biggest pet peeves on these 72 throwers is it likes to burn strings off when you get into thin hay, because it doesn't have enough volume feeding in to push that bale into the thrower and get it out. It just sits there and it just burns your strings off, and then just throws loose crap all over your wagon. Makes a freaking mess. And I don't have time to go. I used to stop the baler, get out, pull that out, put it in the windrow and rebale it. I got to the point I said to heck with it. This year I don't think I've done that once. We just got to keep baling, and then we come home and we unload the loose stuff and feed it. You know, we're making enough hay. It is what it is. We have sheep and goats now. In the past we had some, but not a lot. Every bale to me was valuable, and it still is. Every bale is, you know, extra money, but at that time it was like every bale is very valuable because we weren't making as much. So rebaling was definitely worth it. Now it's like it ain't even worth the time. If we have the time when we're done unloading all the loose stuff, we'll kick out and rebale it in the, you know, back in the barn or in the barn or wherever, or we'll just scoop with the skid steer bucket and just feed it right away. And that's probably the way we're just going to keep going, because it isn't worth the time to do all the rebaling and messing around. It just sucks that you have sometimes 2, 3, 4 bales break on a single load. Once we made the adjustment, I don't think I had more than 2 or 3 strings burn off in the whole field, if even that. But before we made it, probably had 10 strings burn off on the first load, at least 10, maybe 15 or 20 on the first load alone. It was such a pain in the butt. It sucked. But we made that adjustment, which took a good hour to make. These things, you know, never are as easy as you think they should be. But we got it done, and it seemed to be working pretty good. But yeah, that's why I want to get away from those. They're just easier to dial bales in, and I'm just sick of handling bales. So if you guys got any other suggestions, and I guess I didn't even touch on stack wagons, so don't even mention those. Because, oh, you never touch the bales, you just pick them up and unload them right away. It's less than handling the bales, right? Like, you don't have to run a loader and this and that. And that's fine and dandy if your fields are 2 to 3 miles away, 5 miles at most. But when you have 18 miles, I don't know what the biggest ones hold. If it's 200 bales, it's still not enough. Because if you're trying to do 2,000 bales, that's 10 trips, 20 miles. And if they only go 45 down the road, like say we have a really, really nice unit, and it can go 60 mile an hour. I don't think they do. I think they only go 45, the New Holland stack wagons. But say you got a self-propelled that does go 60 mile an hour, 20 miles from the field. That's going to take you 20 minutes minimum to get back and forth from the field to your barn. And it's going to take you probably 20 minutes to fill it, 5-10 minutes to unload. So we're already looking at, you just lost an entire hour per trip. Maybe a 2,000 bale day would be 10 hours. I could see it possible, but I just don't see how it'd work very well in my system. Yeah, we do have the barn height 20 foot, so if we ever thought that was the way we wanted to go down the road, or we get acres closer, maybe. But right now, with how far we are, and it's like, then how do you sell the bales? You still got to move them by hand? Well, no, you don't. The whole point is get rid of hand labor, right? So you need to get a grapple and something that can reach on top of those stacks, because my skid steer sure won't. So then you need a telehandler plus the stack wagon. Then you need the grapple. And if you want one that the bigger capacity ones that can hold, I don't know if they go to 200 or 140, 180, whatever the biggest bale count ones are, call it 200. I don't think they do, but you're looking at probably $50,000 for that. Telehandler's 30, the grapple's 10. Well, shoot, now you got more money than you do in a bale bearing, and the bale bearing product, in my opinion, is just a superior product that's on the market for the handling side of things and loading trailers and whatnot. So, yeah. If there's something else I'm missing and you want clarification on, just let me know. Definitely not sure how these videos will do, just kind of me rambling, because I got a lot of things we could talk about, or you really want to get into certain things. But eventually we'll do a whole tour of everything. But for now, that's probably plenty for this video.